They might look like an unassuming bunch, but for 1 week a year, they're capable of causing unimaginable havoc in one of the busiest cities in America. Around 15,000 hackers and security experts descended on Las Vegas for the 21st annual DefCon to discuss the latest and greatest exploits and vulnerabilities targeting seemingly anything and everything. Sure, this computer could be hacked, or this phone, or this TV, or a camera just like this one. At DefCon, hackers go to learn how to wage attacks on just about anything, but more importantly, how to prevent them.
There was a session on how to hack into those self-driving cars. You know, there's people like hacking into ATMs, hacking into pacemakers, hacking into, you know, refrigerators. I don't think there's a limit to what, you know, some of these people with the creativity and the skills that they have. You know, I don't think there's any limit to what they can reverse engineer.
But it's not just breaking into boring systems and servers at DefCon either. Zaz is an Australian computer scientist whose life revolves around robots. Sometimes he builds them, but at DefCon he discusses ways to break them. If there's a system that can be tinkered or toyed with, at DefCon they'll do it.
This year I came to give a talk about hacking driverless vehicles because I'm really into autonomous robots. I'm involved in autonomous robot competitions, and I felt like now we're on the cusp of shared use acceptance of driverless vehicles on the roads, shared airspace with UAVs, and so it's time to think about adversarial relationships and how we can make sure we build these systems bulletproof.
Yes, driverless vehicles like this, and UAVs, or unmanned aerial vehicles, like this one. Zaz has been at DefCon as either an attendee or presenter going back to the 1990s, and this year a few thousand people packed a conference room to watch him show how drones and driverless cars alike can be compromised with just a couple of tricks. Like almost everyone at DefCon, though, Zaz says he hacks for good, not for bad.
People here at DefCon are my people. They're people who are curious and they want to learn. They come here to find out how things work and how they can you know, use it best and sometimes make things do things that they weren't supposed to do in a good way often, to improvise and adapt, and to learn from each other and to show off what they've done. So this is primarily a conference where people come to learn things and to engage their curiosity. And so that's what I like about it so much, because if you have something that you're interested in, chances are there are people here that are going to be interested in it too.
In addition to hacking household appliances, UAVs, and all sorts of other gizmos and gadgets, security experts come to DefCon to discuss exploits and vulnerabilities applicable to just about anything. John Draper, also known as Captain Crunch, started compromising computer systems in the 1960s when he used a homemade device called a blue box to make free phone calls around the world.
Well, why did you do it? Was it because you didn't want to pay for phone calls mainly?
That wasn't the real reason. The real reason behind my experimenting around with the system was to learn the system and understand how it worked, much like what's happening today with people breaking into computers.
Draper went on to show a few guys named Steve and Steve how to hack phones too, and eventually they moved on to make millions, then billions, off their own endeavors. But while you won't find the CEO of Apple Computers walking around DefCon in 100-degree heat, Draper still shows up to discuss his sordid past, where his sheer curiosity usually kept him close to trouble. He says he never wanted to hack for harm, though, and relied on hacks and exploits to explore systems that were still in their infancy, and just to have a little fun.
Back in the mid-70s, we found this number by accident, an 800 number, because we were scanning for numbers. And it went into the White House. It was the White House's CIA crisis hotline number. So we sat on that White House line for a while, and we learned President Nixon's name was Olympus. So we, a couple weeks later, I wrote down that. And we were at a party, and so we called the White House number, and we asked for Olympus, and a person who sure to hell sounded like Nixon came on the line, and we said, "Sir, we have a national crisis on our hands. Sir, we're out of toilet paper," and we hung up. So we were the first people to prank Nixon.
Of course, hacking phone lines and prank calling the president are child's play compared to some of the other stuff that goes on at DefCon. People learn how to hack high-tech toys made for toddlers, digital cameras, drones, and all sorts of other goodies. Of course, what's perhaps the most frightening are the hacks being done by Uncle Sam, compromising each one of our personal conversations.
I spoke today. I gave a 1-hour talk all about how the FBI and local law enforcement agencies are now in the hacking business, how they're hacking into people's computers.
Chris Soghoian is a principal technologist and senior policy analyst at the ACLU's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project, and he's spoken a number of times at DefCon this year about issues that aren't of interest to only hackers. Civil libertarians like Soghoian have long assumed the government was getting communications from anyone they wanted, but the recent revelations have confirmed these suspicions. Now, Soghoian says he hopes people start to speak up.
They've been doing this for a while, but they've kept it under wraps, and I think it's time that we have a public debate about whether law enforcement agencies should really be in this business, whether we want local cops or the FBI to have the capability to hack into any computer, anyone's smartphone. I mean, if cybersecurity is a national concern, which I think it should be, then I don't really think these tools should be floating around. I think we should be prioritizing cybersecurity. And this is just not a debate that we've had.
But just weeks after this guy gave the world a glimpse of what the government is actually doing, that discussion is one that might finally be on the verge of making it mainstream. From Las Vegas, Nevada, Andrew Blake, RT.